Very good afternoon and welcome to this presentation by Mr. Abrar Meha. He's with BIIS, very prominent think tank in Dhaka, and this is a kind of presentation he's making over a study, which you can actually see. It's about development human security nexus. Uh, and it's about a significant project, mega project, Padma multipurpose bridge mega project. This project is actually one of the, I think, major success story of Bangladesh government, especially under Sheikh Hasina's leadership. And this is something why I mean the number of projects Bangladesh has been undertaking, but this is one mega project which has been completely funded by the Bangladesh government itself. So this is not something like money taken from ADB or World Bank or from, for that matter, from the China's BRI initiative. So this is in some or other signifies Bangladesh coming arrival at a time when lot of countries are actually facing through the debt burden, and in South Asia you would have seen actually cases like Sri Lanka and others which are completely under Chinese trap. So in a sense, this signals this project success of this project, which has taken of course a long time, but nonetheless this success of this mega project signals Bangladesh economic rise, as a sort of country which a couple of decades back was called as a basket case by none else than Kissinger, is today on a different sort of stage altogether, and it is garnering a lot of global attention in terms of its development trajectories, kind of a significant improvement in human development indicators. So this project in some way or other is a kind of journey, how Bangladesh has arrived. And of course, this has multi dimension. In a sense, you can easily see any mega projects from our own experience in India, which involves massive displacement, issues related to compensation, livelihoods, and then of course always the development and human security issues actually becomes serious security challenges if it's not really managed well. And we have seen in our case, especially in the early 2000s, when we had hundreds of mega projects that happened in India at a very faster pace because the country's economy had opened and a lot of investment were flowing. And then the kind of displacement that happened in, especially in the central India, where millions of people were displaced, and there were compensation was very meager, and that led to later on kind of upsurge of protest, and some of them also contributed to the rise of phenomena called left wing extremism. We saw state after state actually became almost 7-8 states came under the radar of Maoist insurgency, and it took almost 10 to 15 years of hard fought to bring them and limit them to a great extent, although we haven't completely stamped them out. So I'm saying in that sense, Bangladesh has achieved something very credible. But then there are many dimensions which the presentation by Mr. Abrar will bring out, and because no mega projects, you can always say that just because we constructed a road, rail bridge kind of things and brought connectivity, that things are actually settled. So it's a continuous kind of process, and a lot of things actually remains alive. So we have Sohini Bose from our Kolkata colleague, who has been writing and covering Bangladesh for many years. She has also written on this issue as a discussant. And then we'll also try to see that we also have a kind of some times left for the discussion. So without spending much time, I'll now invite Mr. Avra to share the findings, because this is basically part of a book which has come out. This is the book which has come out from their endeavor, and 4, 5 of the colleagues have actually written. So this is something on which he's going to present. Over to you.
Thank you for giving me the floor, and thank you for hosting my book and giving me the opportunity to talk before this August gathering. BISS and WRF share a long-standing history, and jointly BISS and WRF has organized a number of events earlier, and hopefully in the future that will continue. So, as Dr. Sahu sir has mentioned already, he laid a quite a nice background based on the book I have co-authored. So if we started this research back in 2021 with an understanding that whenever any large scale infrastructural development projects gets implemented in any land scarce and populated countries like Bangladesh, local inhabitants suffer and sometimes evicted. So, and based on that, a very little amount of literatures are available. What we have find, at least in the open source, and the literatures like scholars like Sarnia suggest that there are major livelihood aspects that gets affected, and because of the disruption of the these aspects, you can see in the slide the entire livelihood of the project affected persons, which we call PAPs or PAPs, gets severely disrupted. And in this case of Padma Multipurpose Bridge Megaproject, we wanted to see the condition of the project affected persons, and as such, we intended to find out the level of sustainability increased in their livelihood. Because, as Sir already said, and I want to second that whenever any sort of mega projects gets initiated, especially in countries like Bangladesh, lots of emotions gets attached, at least in the South Asia, and people or the economists, they started measuring that what are the cost and benefits will be in terms of economic parlance. But economy is definitely something important, but apart from that, there are some other issues as well that we need to look for. Development means comforting people's lives and livelihood. It is not about the majority, it's about all. The society should be benefited by every single means. I mean, if I ensure comfortability of 80% or 90%, still 10% or 20% is left. And that is not what development aims for. So, keeping this point in mind, we started this research and wanted to see what about the people who sacrificed their land. Those 3,012 households, more than 10,000 people, around 5,000 working men, women, and youths. So, to examine the sustainability, we looked into three aspects. This is one of the famous models to examine sustainability, which indicates economic, social, and environmental. And you can see a niche area identified here, which indicates the policies that ensures sustainability. So, any policies taken by the government that falls under the niche area will lead into ensuring these 5 types of capital indicated in the pentagon. In development area, we call it asset pentagon. So you can read the in the slide. In this framework, I have put the initial letters. You can read it in details in the legend mentioned there. So if policies ensure economic, social, and environmental aspects, that ensures human capital, physical capital, natural, social, and financial capital for the PAPs. And as such, the outcome you can see in the green block that their health, economic, social security remains ensured, intact, or to some extent enhanced, and their vulnerability gets reduced. So, keeping this point in mind, we started examining the state of project affected person. I am not going into greater details of the methodology, but I think it is pertinent to share that I personally have visited 4 times in 2018, then 2020, 2021, and latest in 2022. So I have seen the construction started in 2017. So from the initial phase to after the inauguration, every time I was there, I have seen things changing. And my co-authors also accompanied me sometimes during the visit, and I have passed more than a month living with those people over the course of time. So whatever I am representing now is something that the people have felt, that I have observed, and there is a mix of it. So let's start with the economic finding. So the first and most pressing issue is the abolishment of ghat-centric business. I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever been in Dhaka. Dhaka, as well as Bangladesh, is quite a densely populated country, and there is not much room for refreshment. So people who used to live in Dhaka city used to spend their weekend for a refreshment in Mawa. Mawa is the place where it is the river bank of Padma Bridge, what in India we call it Ganga. That is the Padma in Bangladesh. So the Mawa was a quite a very famous place. It was a we can call it a tourist hub, and it was the major juncture for connecting the southeastern entire south block of Bangladesh with the rest of the country. So Mawa was that important, and it is one of the busiest junctions for both passengers and visitors. And for many years, local people have been engaged in a number of income generating activities. You can see in the slide that, of course, these are informal and quite temporary in nature, but these were the lives and livelihood of over 3,000 families which got entirely, which got entirely abolished because of the construction of this bridge. Now, as the construction started, I have said that 3,012 families sacrificed their residence and their livelihoods, and PMB will surely enhance. I mean, when I made the study, that was the future, but for now it will be past. So Padma has enhanced the connectivity and contributed to the GDP by 1.24%. For the regional GDP, it is more than 2.5%, but at what cost? And what will happen to these families? So in terms of economic aspect, the first answer is training. To restore their livelihood, the government provided training to the resettled people following a bottom-up approach. This is something important here, because you know that whenever this sort of things came up, people, the government, whatever practices we have witnessed so far is government arbitrarily impose some training trades and say that, okay, these are the 4 or 5 types of training, and get introduced to this, get used to it, get trained over it, and find your job. But in this case, what government has done, government has introduced geo-NGO collaboration. One of the finest NGO for Bangladesh for restoring livelihood, restructuring livelihood is Eco-Social Development Organization, mostly known as ESDO. So government has collaborated with ESDO and started a household level campaign to know what are the trades they would like to be trained of, and they identified 20, but because of the paucity of number of participants, finally 14 types of training trades were later selected, and people, more than 5,000 people were trained, and during the training each of them have received 500 taka per day, so that they need not to worry about feeding their families while they're receiving the training. And after receiving the training, those who wanted to establish businesses, government arranged up to 10 lakh taka loan with a 0% interest, and those who are engaged with other trades, government played the role of mediator to get connected with other business communities. So I would like to say that it is a holistic ecosystem that has been established for them to earn better, to live better. So Now, if we look at the outcome of the training, I mean, these are the trainings that government has given, but how much it has impacted to the people and what people have thought. There is a tricky thing you can see that we have said that it is the effect of the training, not the impact, because to measure the impact, we have to go for difference of differences, and we since we lack the baseline data, we cannot go for the impact analysis. So these are the public perception that how their trainings has put effect on their day-to-day livelihood, and you can see that around 42% people thinks that their income has increased, and for around 67% people it is within the comfortable range. And to my understanding, these numbers are quite satisfactory, though not the best of best, but around 70% people, keeping 70% project affected person within a comfortable range is quite a significant number, I rather argue. So this economic impact, if you see, the highest bar indicates the Shariatpur, and it tells us a quite a different story. The Padma Bridge ends in the end of Shariatpur districts, and people of Shariatpur neither get trained nor get evicted or displaced, despite they are facing a good amount of positive spillover effect because of the enhanced and better connectivity. So it rather indicates that enhanced connectivity not only has improved the lives and livelihoods of the people who got evicted, but also those people who, of the 21 southern districts of Bangladesh, because of a better connectivity. And if you calculate in the chapter 4 and 6, we have presented it quite in detail that the movement timing for the Petrapol Benapur land port from the Dhaka city has reduced by 4 hours. So this is quite significant for the businessman, entire business industry for both the countries, and it is expected that the further outcome will be much greater in this regard. So there are some sort of challenges, of course, because of the better connectivity. People of Shariatpur are intended to perform some sort of businesses, some sort of shopping like clothing and jewelry shopping from the Dhaka instead of Shariatpur. So the people of Shariatpur, the businessmen and women of Shariatpur who are dealing with the clothings and jewelry and other sort of businesses, they are facing a bit trouble. But I would argue that every sort of development intervention is bound to come up with some sort of structural change, because change is inevitable, so does. And I think these challenges rather open some window of opportunity for them to get updated. So other than that, the economic impact we found in this study was quite magnificent for the people. Now, if I go to the social dimension, the changes are even greater. And in the resettlement sites where these 3,000 families got resettled, they are living now, it offers a better livelihood than they had earlier, especially in terms of their accommodation, access to health, education, living arrangement, and all other associated factors. So in the slide, you can see that the effect of education among the project affected persons. And if the one interesting factor here is that you can see the primary for the primary education, the increase rate is more than 80 to 85%, and in some cases is more than 90%. But for the college section, the majority section remained unchanged. So I want to tell a thing here is that where the Mawa and the other bank, which is we call Jajira. So these are some of the unions which falls under the Upojila, and Upojila is in Bangla, the Upojila is a Bangla word, we call it sub-district. The sub-district is basically the lowest administrative wing in Bangladesh, and in the lowest administrative wing, in their whatever educational or health medical facilities are existing, that is existing centering the sub-district. So the nearest school was around 10 to 12 kilometers away, and given the socio-economic condition of the people, of the parents living there, they cannot afford really for a convenience charge, for a tiffin charge for their children. So they do not used to send their children to the school, though the school was the education was completely free, but there was a convenience charge, transportation charge, and altogether that is not quite negligible in amount. So what government has done, understanding this problem, government has and there are 8 resettlement sites, and each resettlement site government has established one is primary school with a full-fledged facility and a number of faculties headed by a one head teacher, and that brought the numbers this much significantly higher. What government didn't do is could not establish secondary, higher secondary, or tertiary level educational institution for which for the college section it remained unchanged. So this is we found that this is one of the room for further development where the further action can be taken.
How far these resettlement colonies have been from the project site?
It is within the project site. Yes, yes, and it's very close. In each resettlement sites, there are more or less 300 to 400 households are living. I mean, it varies. It varies based on many different things. So, about the health sector, there are a lot to say, in fact. And as I already mentioned, the Upajala was the administrative hub, and the nearest Upajala health complex was 20 kilometers far away from the north bank of Padma Bridge and 25 kilometers from the southern bank of Padma Bridge. So people living in that place have witnessed people died, pregnant mother delivered, or even died while taking them to the nearest health complex, and the roads were quite bumpy, so ambulances also took time to come over. And now people have medical services at their doorstep within the resettlement sites, and each resettlement site one MBBS doctor and 9 nurses with a 10 with an outdoor patient facility, 10 beds, and a minor OT with some basic pathological services have been established. So here, if you look at the blue and yellow bar, you will see that the amount or magnitude of increasing ambulance and radiological service is very, very lower. That's because though the roads get developed, the resettlement sites have been introduced with medical complexes, but no ambulances were given so far. In any resettlement site, there is no ambulances and no radiological services have been established in those medical complexes, not even ultrasonogram or X-ray. So these are some of the lacunas we have found, but whatever they currently have, we have seen that people are very much satisfied with it, and what they have, it is very much more than they had earlier when they used to live within the river bank before the construction and before they get resettled in the Padma resettlement area. So I would say this social dimension has excellently been handled by the government quite.
These services are free.
Yes, it's completely. Now, only 10 taka required for each service, and medicines are free, and the pathological tests are also free. So I would like to talk upon with a greater detail about the gender dimension, because if you have noticed the previous slide when I was discussing the economic impact, there male and female both tables were shown, and from that I have drawn this inference which says that from the gender dimension you can see out of the 14 training trades, in 8 training trades number of female participants is higher than the male or at least equal, and for at least 4 it's almost, I mean, near about 100%. So Why this happened because while selecting the training trades, I said that the government went for a geo-NGO collaboration, and there was an instruction given to the NGO that select trades in a way so that females can also participate in it and females can also be part of it. So you see that in crafting, is block batik, in jute good production, in tailoring and dressmaking, in these sort of things, men were found quite less interested, and it rather provided a greater avenue for the women who used to be homemaker earlier are now a proud employer, are a proud incoming member of their own households. So this pay project affected person receives monetary compensations and lands from the government, and both the lands and the bank accounts are jointly owned by husband and wife. Why I'm mentioning this, there were two types of land that were owned by the project affected person. One is their living or residing land, and another was their land of agricultural goods. Because apart from the economic ecology existing that I showed, they also perform some sort of agricultural activities because of the fertility of the land. So both their residing land and agricultural land were utilized to establish this bridge, and for their residing land they were resettled in the resettlement sites, and for their agricultural land they received some monetary compensation. And every family who have received the monetary compensation were bound to make one bank account, and that had to be joint bank account. The understanding of the government is, if the ownership can be given both male and female member of the household, preferably the husband and wife, that will ensure some sort of empowerment to the women, along with their economic empowerment, that is given them with some sort of social currency. Thus their bank accounts were also joint, that neither husband nor wife has the solemn authority on the bank account, and the land they have received, that is also registered jointly in the name of the husband and wife. So in this way also, apart from economic empowerment, the government has contributed empowering the women from some sort of social dimension. And through this sort of activities, we argue that the government has successfully ensured these seven items. Yeah, please.
Just a very curious question. The last 4-5 profession, if you look at, there is zero women participations. Yes. Why is that so actually?
That is we also get astonished seeing this thing, because these data about the validity of this data set, these data were collected from the government agencies. So these are not the data we have collected. So while looking at the data set, we wanted to talk with some women that what happened. So they are found fundamentally less interested with some sort of electronics and wire things. That's why you see the last stage, like the TV repairing, fridge AC repairing, welding, and electric.
Precisely. I mean, I'm basically wanted the same kind of answer. This is no. Listen. What I'm saying is, actually, when you do a kind of mega project and you are actually training, the state is actually funding and training, designing everything. It is actually makes sense to consciously change this typical, like in India we have that caste profession sort of nexus, like if you are born in the lower caste, your profession is you have to do garbage cleaning and all kind of things. You have to break, state has to break, make conscious effort. So here I was raising that questions. When you are doing a mega project and you have a chance to bring transformations, why not doing that? Driving, for instance, look at driving. Women actually in most of the Southeast Asian countries you go, actually more in 30-40% women are actually driving. So what I'm saying is that breaking those sort of you have a. So precisely I wanted to hear in the study, whether there have been conscious effort to change these things, or you are going with the trend, what is prevalent in the society, other thing. So government formulates the, or designs the program accordingly.
Now, I got your point, sir.
We'll come back in the discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you moved to the A. I think
Okay.
we'll have discussion. I just raised it basically so that we need to also debate this.
Yes, I will and get back to you with this. So what I was trying to say that in the first slide I talked about these 8 aspects that were identified that which gets affected in the lives and livelihoods of the project affected persons, and in the later slide I have introduced the asset pentagon. So the sort of policies government has taken to restore their to ensure their social and economic sustenance and also other sort of sustenance. It actually ensures the 7 components of human security, which range from economic security to environmental to political and community, you just name it. So this framework was not there. The human security framework existed in the academic arena for decades. So does the idea of sustainable development and the aspect of development induced displacement. What contribution this book makes in this field is that we have brought these two distinct things together, that in a resource scarce, land scarce countries like Bangladesh or the South Asian countries, which is quite densely populated, we can also make effort to ensure both macro scale development and micro scale human security efforts to make everyone's life better with a whole of a society approach, more so following a bottom up approach. So instead of following some sort of Western prescribed formula, I think the time has come that we preach to the world that the South Asia has its own experience and model, because it has quite been some time. At least Bangladesh has become more than 5 decades, and India and its neighbors have even more. So we are also to come up with our own models, because whatever we have done, that is being named by many sort of words like I do not particularly want follow the suit of calling Asian miracle or South Asian miracle, or whatever Professor Sao was saying, that the basket case, and now it is a Bangladeshi miracle. And recently I have seen a book which called The Development Journey of Bangladesh as the Bangladesh Paradox. So I think it is our own experience. The West has set their model as per their context, and Bangladesh or South Asia has to set its model based on its experiences. And there is no paradox, there is no miracle. It is what it is. And with that note, I would like to thank and would like to listen to you all. Yes, sir, please, sir.
Could you amplify political security? Just amplify what you mean by political security.
Okay, sir. Sir, in terms of political security, what we mentioned here, that these sort of people, let me connect it with one of your ideas. I mean, in India, there's the Aadhaar card, na? It has been more than a decade when Aadhaar card was ensured, which is the biometric identity. So in Bangladesh also in 2009, this current political regime has introduced this project, which is called the National Identity Card. What you call it Aadhaar card in India, we call it NID card in Bangladesh. So most of the people who used to live there, they are of course the citizen of the country, but this sort of people used to live, remain quite less tracked, I would say. They used to move from one place to another. They had no permanent or present address given in the slide. So as such, that rather questioned their right to vote to a larger extent. And it, yes, no, they are not crossing their border, but but it remains very difficult to track them, because when the voter ID list has been made, they are from one place to another, and it is based on the permanent address, and they are not willing to give it. So whenever government was going for the resettlement side, they were bound to do the registration within the Bangladesh Election Commission for their national identity, and the given land has been registered as their permanent address, and that has brought them within the umbrella of practicing their political rights, and that is what we are calling political security in this study, sir.
So I'll invite Sohini to share her thoughts and reactions. But very interesting presentation. Yeah, Sohini, please.
Thank you for having me to share my views on this topic today. And at the very outset, let me thank Mia for expounding on these thought-provoking findings of the development of the Padma Setu on behalf of the Bangladesh Institute for International and Strategic Studies. I would also like to thank Dr. Sahu for hosting this important discussion. Now, as you know, I work on Bangladesh at ORF, but my domain of research is essentially connectivity. But connectivity and displacement, these are two sides of the same coin, or say connectivity and development and displacement, they are two sides of the same coin. And therefore, what I share with you today, it will be my take on the other side of the story of building connectivity mega projects in Bangladesh. Uh, I will not delve into the details of the various resettlement initiatives that have been undertaken during the construction of the Padma Setu, but I will try to contextualize this development within the broader governance paradigm concerning development-induced displacement in Bangladesh. Now, let me begin by sharing a small experience with all of you. I was in Dhaka last May to attend a conference. And while I was waiting at the airport to catch my flight back to Kolkata, I had some time to look around at the shops, to see if I could pick up some souvenir for home. In one particular shop, there was this basket, and it was full of magnets depicting, the famous monuments of Bangladesh, such as, say, the Mukti Moncho and the Lal Bagh Fort. One item stood out amidst the collection, and this was a magnet of the Padma multipurpose bridge, or the Padma Setu as we call it. And remarkably, it had found its place among Bangladesh's most cherished and recognizable landmarks within just a year of its completion. To me, this symbolized modern Bangladesh, a country which is keen on development and economic prosperity. Moreover, in a landscape, as Dr. Sahu has rightly pointed out, in a landscape where most of Bangladesh's infrastructural projects rely on foreign funding, it was an icon of national pride. It was as entirely financed by the government and citizens of Bangladesh, and this showcased, their commitment to development, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. Now, the connectivity benefits of the Padma Setu are not unknown to anybody in this room, and I will not delve into it further for that matter. But indeed, Padma Setu is one of the most important infrastructural developments in Bangladesh, as it is the largest bridge in the country and the second largest bridge in the entire Indo-Gangetic plain. But it is also one of the many infrastructural initiatives that have been undertaken in Bangladesh in recent years, with the government especially keen on driving a developmental agenda, which we have seen in last elections. Development was at it was the trump card of the Hasina government. And foreign funding is abundantly available for realization of such projects. A while back I had conducted a study, and it showed that there, of the three kinds of foreign assistance that Bangladesh receives, project aid is the most abundantly available in the country from foreign sources. And given such a situation, this makes it, this is a kind of situation in which multiple infrastructural initiatives are being undertaken in the country. But as we have discussed, not much land is freely available in Bangladesh for such constructions. Not much land is freely available in Bangladesh for such construction because it is the eighth most developed, densely populated country in the world and also ranks 94th in terms of land area. Now, as a result of which, almost say 1,157 people live per square kilometer in Bangladesh. Land availability is further compromised because Bangladesh's deltaic topography and its vulnerability to natural disasters and the impact of climate change make some parts of the country unsuitable for such projects. Therefore, in Bangladesh, it is impossible to construct mega infrastructural projects without displacing a sizable section of the population. However, to meet the economic aspirations of the people and to remain aligned with the government's plan of losing the least developed country status by 2026, ending absolute poverty, graduating into a higher middle income status by 2031, eradicating poverty on the way to becoming a developed country by 2041, development projects are a necessity in Bangladesh. Therefore, a steady rise in the construction of development infrastructure and development induced displacement is as much a reality in Bangladesh today as is the country's vulnerability to disasters and climate change induced displacement. One is a natural reality, one is an economic social reality. Unfortunately, while the Bangladesh government's Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief has adopted the National Strategy on Internal Displacement Management in 2021 to address climate induced migration and displacement, the country has no resettlement policy for development induced displacement like most countries in South Asia. In the history of Bangladesh, many development projects have been undertaken and completed without any resettlement policy, despite the knowledge that it would lead to large scale population displacements. For example, the Kaptai hydroelectric dam, completed in 1961, displaced close to 90,000 members of native hill tribes, and they were never adequately rehabilitated. In Bangladesh, typically, such large projects affect people with the loss of agricultural land, their homes, and resettlement issues have also arisen in the case of many ongoing projects. Government land acquisition is also an issue as it diminishes the productivity of farm based families, and it is associated with low and delayed compensation payments, bribery, hardship, and often harassment of the project affected people by local revenue officials. However, no resettlement plan has been crafted for development induced displacement for a long time because cash compensation was considered to be sufficient for those who had been displaced to take care of themselves. Enhanced compensation and resettlement were regarded as additional expenditures, unnecessarily increasing the cost of a project, which countries like Bangladesh with financial limitations could ill afford to pay. It was not until 1990 when the World Bank began reviewing the resettlement plan of the Jamuna Multipurpose Bridge project before agreeing to fund it that lengthy discussions and several rounds of negotiation and appraisal took place for the first time on the need for a proper resettlement and rehabilitation plan for a large number of people who were affected on both sides of the Jamuna River. Now, the Jamuna River Bridge project was very similar to the Podda River because very much like the Podda, which bifurcates the country into the northern and the southern half, the Jamuna divides it into the eastern and western half. Now, like the Podda Setu, the Jamuna Setu was also complete with road, railways, electricity, and gas lines. But around the same time, this is in the 1990, the World Bank, which was one of the funders for this project, it had come up with a resettlement program, and it wanted such programs to be development oriented and to ensure that all steps are taken to prevent the dislocated from becoming permanently impoverished and destitute. And resettlement activities and plans thus needed to go beyond cash compensations and deal with economic, technical, and socio-organizational factors in an integrated manner for the settlers to help them rebuild a self-sustainable production base and improve or at least restore their former living standard and earning capacity. The World Bank's approach to resettlement is shared by other organizations such as the Asian Development Bank and the JICA, which are among Bangladesh's top donor agencies for infrastructure projects. However, in the absence of a national resettlement policy, the efforts of resettlement in these donor driven projects became ad hoc, project specific, and consistent with the country's existing land acquisition laws. Naturally, because of the ad hocism involved in the process, there were many variations in the resettlement packages, benefits, and ongoing projects depending on how seriously the individual task managers who were assigned to the projects pursued the resettlement issues during the negotiations. But what happened was that the discussions during the Jamuna Bridge project served as a case study for the best practices for the Padda Setu. And indeed, it has been 2 years since the Padma Bridge, and Mia has already outlined in great detail what these initiatives are. And he is in a far better place to outline these initiatives rather than me. But doing my desk research from based in Calcutta, it has been very difficult for me to find even one negative report about the displacement of the Padma Setu in while I was preparing for this for my deliberations today. But there are many positive stories that are circulating, and you know reportedly those who were affected by the construction of the bridge have been resettled in planned resettlement sites with provisions for house plots, civic amenities such as water supply, electricity, schools, market access, and waste management systems. Let me just cite briefly a report that I came across by the Business Standard, and this quoted residents who were living in the Rehabilitation Center, Padma Bridge Rehabilitation Center, and one lady, she was quoted as saying that the government has not only paid me but also provided me with a nice place to live. We have tap water, electricity, and here, just like people of Dhaka, we get medicines when we go to hospitals. We are all good here. This made me realize that for any resettlement to be satisfactory, it has to be in tune with the aspirations of those who are displaced. And as per the media reports, the Padma Setu appears to have done that. Also, for those whose farmlands were lost, they have been allocated farmlands in the rehabilitation centers as well. Um, then the government has also give provided training programs as Mia has outlined, and going beyond that, it has also, for those who were learning how to drive, the government has issued them with driving licenses, put them in touch with potential employers and such like. These on ground reports aside, uh, if you look at the website of the Padma multipurpose bridge, they maintain a very uh, uh, you know updated record of how far the resettlement action plan has progressed, and it includes the development of resettlement sites, relocation of affected households, grievance redress mechanism. It also provides a table with information on resettlement efforts for affected people now, and also a separate section for environment action plan. Now this makes the entire effort more systematic and transparent. Concluding what I have to say, it needs to be mentioned that after the Jamuna multipurpose bridge project experience, Bangladesh began formulating different resettlement policy frameworks for different development projects. For example, in June 2020, it released the resettlement policy framework by the Roads and Highway Department under the Ministry of Road and Transport for the Western Economic Corridor and Regional Enhancement Program. However, given the ad hoc nature of resettlement in Bangladesh, these frameworks are scattered. But with development infrastructure building increasingly becoming a norm in Bangladesh, there is the need to consolidate the best practices in all these plans for future use. In the absence of a national plan for resettlement, which can be difficult to compose given that resettlement is a very subjective issue, and to secure, we can, what Bangladesh can come up with is a module of best practices which can protect the most disadvantaged groups and secure the future of development itself, along with a cautionary of the worst practices that need to be avoided. And in such a repository, the Padma Setu resettlement initiatives, these can be one of the textbook cases for the sustainable resettlement of the project affected people. Of course, there are challenges and there will be challenges in future projects, but this consolidation of the best practices will eventually help Bangladesh as it moves towards its Vision 2041. Thank you.
Thank you, Sohini. I think very precise and pointed inputs you have given, and you have added a lot of actually insights, starting from the Yamuna multi project and the evolution of kind of the best practices in Bangladesh, especially R&R, which always a major issue in any country where you have large projects. And from our own experience in India, resettlement and rehabilitation is always a hot issue and very difficult to manage, especially when you are actually in doing a project which involves displacing thousands of people, and livelihood issue is a major way, and then people miss out their own social and other sort of a land where they have been living for ages. It's not easy, it's a emotional issue always. And as you said, Bangladesh being a sort of very, very, in terms of populated, densely populated country, and then land is also very scarce, and you have natural vagaries, which happens all the time. Every couple of months you have a major natural disaster, other thing. So building, especially successfully completing a mega projects, and that too addressing human issues, is quite a challenge. And in that sense, Bangladesh, what it has accomplished in terms of Padma mega project is sort of a issue which many other countries can follow these best practices. So in a sense, the attempt that you guys have made actually to document and capture some of the sort of core issues, and then the both plus side as well as the minus side of the thing, and then this can actually be a sort of example for many countries, especially in Southeast Asia, where this sort of things is a heart of many political battles. So we will now open the floor for maybe 10-15 minutes we can take for Q&A answer, and then we close it actually. So please introduce yourself and be very brief actually.
Good afternoon. My name is Pavan. My question is specific to the district administration. As we know that the governance structure of districts in India as well as Pakistan as well as Bangladesh is same. So there are challenges when it comes to the implementation of this kind of mega projects. So what challenges, in fact, this particular project, Padma Setu project, faced from the district administration side, and how you overcame it? Probably, in fact, you had a PMU kind of implementation agency, which is a special project, special purpose vehicle. So what were the challenges and how you overcame it, and how it can be a learning kind of a case study for the administrators who are working in development sector in India and neighboring countries? Thank you.
This is Anangsha Moitro, and I write regularly, as well as I used to host a show for Dhaka Tribune Bangla as well. So I have my two questions. প্রথম প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে আপনার শেষ বক্তব্য নিয়ে, and the second one is the second Padma Bridge. We know the bridge is about connecting Benapole and Darshana, which is pretty closer to my district where I hail from in Nodia. So the larger flow of traffic which flows, it's actually through those corridors nearing Malda, Kushtia, Darshana, these areas. In fact, we know the Darshana's chini mill, the sugar mill was there. So what's your comment on that, the second project? And secondly, আমার প্রথম প্রশ্নটা যেটা সেটাই বলা হয়নি আপনাকে, সেটা হচ্ছে যে প্রথম ব্রিজটা হওয়ার পর what is the amount of trust and how many countries are relying on Bangladesh it can really do, and how many countries are actually putting eggs into this basket, be it from the not just from JICA, but there are couple of other developing partners as well at a time when the forex crisis and the dollar is being freezed. Thank you.
Since there is no further land for distribution, what is the state of the population? Is it decreasing, stabilized, or increasing? Huh? Increasing. Next, wherever land is not available in several other countries, I'm giving an example of Hong Kong, laterally, there are high-rise buildings. Is that being attempted?
During this project, how climate was taken care, particularly this tree cutting, migrant birds, flora and fauna, it was an issue or not?
Regarding I will be starting with the last question, the environment and climate issue. The river regulation, I mean, we all know that the Ganga or Padma, whatever name we use, it is a mighty river. And this river requires serious river governance or regulation, what we call in Bangla, Nodi Shashon. So the river regulation have been done quite significantly in this issue, and it was noticed and severely reported by different national media of Bangladesh. Apart from that, environmental assessment plan, EAP, was also conducted, but we know that while we are doing some sort of development intervention, we make some sort of development intervention, environment is always a question. In Bangladesh, we all know that the number of forest reserve, which is supposed to be 25% of the total land with a 80% of density, is now around 10% as per our latest government record. For the resettlement side, what government has done is government has ensured 30% land for the tree plantation as a forest. I mean, I should not call it a forest. In Bangla, there is a nice word, we call it bonayon. They have reserved 30% land with a 90% density of trees within the resettlement sites, which is if not a best, at least a good practice that can motivate others that while making our homes, we should look after for the tree plantation issue, because climate change is a reality we cannot really forget. But there are some environmentalists who are quite a critic of it, and that if we completely, I as a development practitioner, what I believe is neither environment nor the development can solemnly be focused. Rather, we need to bring things into a balance where both the sides are equally or at least equally managed, and we can make the earth a better life, a better place to live, at least for our future generation. So I will not say that whatever environmental intervention Bangladesh government or the Bangladesh Bridge Authority has adopted in this case is the best, but to some extent it is laudable, and there is a room for development, and hopefully for the second Padma Bridge we will be doing it further. So this lead to me to the next question, which was about the second Padma Bridge. I mean, it is still in the very much budding place, so I am yet to look into it, but if once I gather some more information about it, I would like to get back to you. And regarding the how many countries are counting on Bangladesh, actually that was not been tracked, neither it was within our scope of study. But I believe that while working, I mean in academia, I have seen two trends. One is that people keep writing and writing. They're writing important things remain unnoticed. So what I believe is we need to equally write and equally share our findings, because if we do not share, then people will not know. So this is the, I mean, I have not seen in my, I have a very, not a very long career. I mean, only 3 years I have been in the academia or the research or whatever you say. But within these 3 years, I have not noticed any sort of thing that has been published by the government agency that covers both positive and negative sides quite boldly that we have done in this book. I mean, we did not hesitate to bring any negative issues that has not been endorsed by the government, and we have boldly written it. Of course, we have faced some challenges because I need to convince my ministry that it is out publishing. But however, finally, I could have done it. Yes, please.
Yeah, so right from the first token of the toll tax of Prime Minister Hasina on the day to now, are you satisfied with the numbers it's fetching? All short of revenues for the including the tolls and the other convenience. I mean, it has several brackets, right? Choto gadi jon ek rakom. So yeah, are you satisfied with the numbers and all?
I mean, you are talking about the total collection or the amount of toll per car?
Yeah, having not this toll per card or the particular ferry service, but inclusive of each of the things included here.
Like what they had projected and what they have.
I mean, okay, the projected revenue से real revenue थोड़ा सा कम है, पर अगर आपने पिछले हफ्ते का ये देखा तो पद्मा ब्रिज में 1000 okay, so 1500 Bangladesh crore Bangladeshi taka was the collection for one day just before Eid. So this revenue is getting increasing day by day, but still we are yet to reach the projected revenue, but so far so good.
And the money is coming to the right place, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so about the challenges faced by the administration, sir, I really appreciate the question you have asked, but it requires a separate study. Actually, it connects 21 districts, more than 250 upajilas, more than 1,800 unions, and each union, each upajila, each district, if I count on the district itself, there is a 21 distinct types of districts. The concerning body was Bangladesh Bridge Authority under the Ministry of Roads and Highway. But the Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Religious, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Tourism, altogether more than 11 ministries were under coordination headed by the Cabinet Division. So, and the most adjacent 5 districts were within the immediate vicinity of the construction of the bridge. So the major challenges faced by the local administration was maintaining the coordination. Inter-ministerial, inter-district, inter-upajila, because each upajila has its distinct type of issue. Each union has its own, each district has its own. So along with performing other day-to-day activities, maintaining this sort of coordination put the local and district administration into it is quite a task, I would say. But this is the generic view which I have gathered while taking KIIs with local administration and some of the local member of parliaments. But for going into further details, it requires a serious investigation of the scenario. That's all about your question, sir. Sir, if you want to go for the second round.
He's what the question he raised about the district administration, the challenges they face. For instance, in India, whenever any major, whether it's industrial or development or even infrastructural projects is taken up, which involves thousands of people to be displaced. So the primary actor is obviously the district administration. The district collector and many other revenue and other administrations get involved in terms of mapping other thing, preparing the package, other thing. They'll be consulting with the concerned ministry and all that, but they are the primary actor because law and order is with them. And if something happens, because a lot of protest and political mobilization take place actually around these sort of issues, because it's not easy even with best of the packages, R&R, it's also difficult to move because many people also generally, typical like, development induced kind of a where actually conflicts actually is natural. And there will be a lot of people whose vested interest lies there actually. In fact, people's political career actually is born out of, such mega projects, and they make a political career out of, protesting. West Bengal is a case in point. Mamata Banerjee, I do not have to say. So I'm saying a lot of actually time we witness this in India. So what he raised is valid. I think maybe when you actually look at it, the sort of study more holistically, I think you need to probably expand some of this dimension, in terms of the politics of, mega projects where the district administration, other stakeholders, especially the political class, what was the opposition doing actually? I mean, just to expand, I don't want to put you in, because, yeah, exactly. Because see, in this sort of projects, whether it is definitely good for the country and good for the economy and everything, but opposition parties will obviously try to make use of it to their advantage. In many cases in India, even some of the major projects like Narmada and all that, yeah. So opposition sees a sort of scope for their sort of a to mobilize it. And then a lot of time misinformation and these things actually works in their favor. And sometimes we know best of the projects actually they've collapsed because of if the district administration and the political establishment is not able to communicate and manage the narrative, then it goes really wrong actually. So we have seen that, but I think maybe if you expand further the scope of the thing, this also can be also included. And because when you sell the best practices to the other, you can't actually take out the politics of it actually out of it. If you take, then it becomes more like kind of mechanical and sort of a goody things that these are the merits, these are demerits, this is how we brought off the housing colonies or the thing, and then people happily moved. In fact, I've seen actually in Narmada projects in Gujarat, we did a study actually in Ahmedabad a couple of years back from ORF, where we went to this Narmada waterfront projects, where actually this water beautification and all that were happened in Ahmedabad. And Sabarmati, I'm saying Narmada. So there we went and to those rehabilitation colony and all that to see how people have been relocated, other thing. Some of the colonies where people have happily resettled, other thing, but there are many places where people are not happy, and a lot of them have actually come back because they felt they have been located in a corner where it although they have a good housing and all the other facilities, they can't find work. They because where they were staying, they were finding plenty of work, other thing, and for their daily livelihood. So they have to come from 40 kilometers away because your rehabilitation location is actually something like outskirts of the city. So that they find actually very difficult for them, in terms of livelihood, other things. So they would prefer to come and stay in the Jogi Jupdi and have a better, income other than in a housing colony with all the best of the facilities. So it's a how you manage actually. And I think in that sense, this Padma thing has been, I think what the finding that you shared is very well managed. And from your survey and of the respondent, other thing, you see they're happy with the facilities, and they're and what also Sohini added on from the sort of way that a lot of people share that they're getting health facilities, they got education access, they are also having better connectivity, they're able to save time. So in that sense, I think this project has been really managed well. But as I said, politics apart, and that development narrative, and the challenges they face, those need to be also documented, because when we look at a best practice, we have to look at the 360-degree kind of view or the thing.
In Pakistan, where in fact the whole, in fact, local populate after rehabilitation, they left the place, and many of them are now settled in various foreign countries. So that's another, in fact, dimension. So that's why, in fact, this kind of, in fact, insights is important when we evaluate any project at the subnational and as well as international levels.
Now I'll request Mr. Avra to probably share you a couple of lines as your closing remarks, and what about any additional things you want to respond before we.
Probably, though it is expected, but probably I have the person who have talked most in this room, so I don't want to bother this gathering more. But regarding the administrative challenges, the point Sir has raised, and also Dr. Sahu sir has introduced, we will look into it. I will take this issue to the. I will share it with my colleagues so that we can, if we can, look into it. So one of the major reasons that I wanted to share this with WRF is that this is the, as I have already mentioned, the uniqueness of the book is to introducing the nexus, because development is investigated separately, so does human security, but there remains a nexus, and we all do acknowledge that underlying the nexus there is a political economy. So if if I can make some request that please look into the conceptual framework that we have addressed, please see the methodology that we have followed. If any of the WRF faculties would like to collaborate with us in terms of extending or improving this framework or replicating it for any sort of studies, like we know there are border hearts going on, and in the border heart we can also we may also reapply this framework to see to what extent the human security or human development has been ensured for the people who all are exchanging trading in the open border hearts. So that is the request I would like to make. And from the BISS purview, my Director General has sent regards to the ORF, and he has thanked to host this event, and he has expressed his interest to increase further collaboration with ORF, and we would like to collaborate with in future like we have done in before in any given possibilities, and the modality can be shared later. With that note, I would like to thank you very much, especially the discussant who has taken the pain to join us via online from Kolkata, but I would have been more happy if we can meet in person, but hopefully we will be meeting soon. Thank you all very much.
Nishchay.
I think eventually that will happen, because Sohini has spent so much of time and made such invaluable contribution. So obviously the in-person meeting will happen. And yeah, please, before we, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Actually, we all know that Bangladesh is doing better than India in most socio-economic indicators as well as Human Development Index. And Sohini informed that Bangladesh is aiming to become a developed and middle-income country by 2041 as per its Vision 2041 plan. While India is aiming for the same by 2047, that is 6 years later than Bangladesh. And it is really very remarkable, admirable of Bangladesh to be doing so well in development. In spite of being the most densely populated country in South Asia, it is doing better than other South Asian countries in terms of development. And all these developmental indicators. So it is really very appreciable, admirable of Bangladesh, and really that they are doing better than most other all the other countries in South Asia. Thank you.
Very well about Bangladesh's promise, and of course the scale differs. India's scale and Bangladesh scales. We are a 1.4 billion population, and we do not. You want to add something? Roshni has something. Roshni has the one who has put up this program. So yeah.
So I just wanted to thank Mr. Mia and Soini for this discussion and honestly exposing this dichotomy that exists within South Asia when it comes to development. As the question that you pose, development from whom, at what cost, who bears these costs? I think these are very important dimensions that often get overlooked. And the project that you've discussed, through these findings, we can see that there is a possibility and a chance to galvanize political will that is at the core of it, in order to pursue such dimensions. And as you have provided a very comprehensive view of what development can look like, you included a lot of dimensions: gender, social, health. As we've discussed, there are ways to expand this study, and this is the importance of these kinds of research and developing a South Asian model, as you say. And as a researcher, we are really excited to carry out these kinds of ventures. So thank you so much for this discussion, and everyone for being here and talking about these other dimensions of human security. Thanks.
Just to close it, I would like to say that we really benefited from the insights of these mega projects, and these projects, as you said, it signifies, or what Soini said symbolizes, Bangladesh arrival as a sort of modern, kind of, a state which looks self-confident, and because this entire project has been self-funded, rather than borrowing from other, like many other South Asian countries are into. And then, of course, every mega project has its own challenges, despite a lot of benefits. So, but Bangladesh having a country which with sort of extensive experience in terms of managing. In terms of its human development narrative through a lot of, in a lot of cases, innovation by NGOs, which is it's like a laboratory. In fact, some of the best NGOs like BRAC and all that in Bangladesh have made phenomenal contribution in terms of microfinance and women-led initiatives. It's a fantastic, despite a lot of challenges, in terms of its own being densely populated and lacking resources, natural resources, other thing, and then natural disaster and all that. I think it's doing phenomenally well, and projects like this Padma A need to be showcased to the world. Actually, how Bangladesh cracked this story, and despite a lot of limitations and all that. So I think that is very well taken. But I think it will be holistic if you also bring some of the challenges, those challenges, whether it's political, social, and other even economic challenges that actually comes in any mega projects, that needs to be also documented, because it's a state-led project, mega projects. State would have facilitated in many ways. State also would coerce, force upon, and people will fall in line, because it is basically because state is doing. In many cases, you just have to obey. And compensation, other thing, where you don't have much choice. In fact, a lot of people will be resenting, but they don't have a choice. Typical like what happens in China. You are told and just accept. But Bangladesh is not a China. It's a democratic country where you have opposition, you have free press, and a lot of other actors. So in a sense, those insights, I think, we need to also look at the negative sides, the pitfalls, and what are the problems, and how the government and officials navigated that, overcame that. That those sort of insight will be very useful. So with this, I'll thank you. Let's join over tea and then discuss. Thanks so much.